Good evening, America. I'm Gene Bailey, and you are watching FlashPoint. Glad you're with us tonight. Listen, you need to go share this show on all your social media. Share it far and wide because we need to alert America and the world where they can find the real news and understand what's really going on, because it's a crazy, crazy world out there. Listen, I want to say right here, if you're in the FlashPoint Army email list, you just received an email about some things that we're talking about. If you're not on it, you need to go sign up. There it is, fparmy.com/FP sign up. Go sign up, be a part of the Army. Doesn't cost you anything. You get lots of good stuff and lots more coming your way. Let me introduce my panel tonight, Pastor Hank Cinnamon, Hank Cinnamon. And of course, Lance Wallnow and our good friend Josh Phillip. Welcome, gentlemen, to the program tonight. Listen, let me show you what's going on. Well, before we get into what's happening in L.A. and all the craziness, let's go to Fior Hernandez for an update. Fior?
Gina, violent anti-immigration and customs enforcement rioters have caused destruction across the city of Los Angeles since last week. Today, President Trump assured the nation that the National Guard will remain in Los Angeles until there's no danger.
It looks like a planned disaster. This didn't just happen. They had weapons, they had tools, they had everything you needed. I mean, they were throwing iced water in bottles, in glass bottles, at officers and at soldiers. You could not use the word insurrection, but you could also use the word, these are very dangerous people, they're bad people.
FBI Director Kash Patel told Just the News on Monday the FBI is investigating any monetary connections responsible for these riots, including possible foreign influence. This morning, Democrats decried President Trump's deployment of the National Guard, while Republicans stood in support of the commander-in-chief.
He's deploying National Guard troops and now mobilizing 700 active duty Marines into Los Angeles without the consent of the governor or the request of the governor and local law enforcement. The chaos is the bait, and the switch is a constitutional crisis and power grab.
President Trump was absolutely right to send in the National Guard and to clean up for the governor's failures. You know, Gavin Newsom's been in this effort for the last several months to try to reinvent himself, to rebrand himself, okay? It's pretty difficult to do when your state is a safe haven to violent, criminal, illegal aliens, and you're the one at the helm.
California Governor Gavin Newsom announced on Monday he's suing the Trump administration, claiming government overreach. Back to you, Gene.
Thank you, Fior. Listen, you can catch Victory News on their website or on the Victory channel. They'll put the website right up there on the screen here. And you can catch it 3 times a day, updates during the day, and then, of course, Victory News tonight. Make sure you catch that program. We're still connected. We still work together a lot, and it's a great relationship. All right, so let me bring in Lance. Have you been watching what's going on today, Lance? It's the whole place is gone crazy.
Yeah, Gene, it really should not be that surprising, should it? California is the sanctuary state. L.A. is the sanctuary city. 10 million came in under Biden. How many of them do you think are in L.A.? But what makes it worse is the governor, the mayor, the police, the entire infrastructure of the Democrat Party is locked in to the illegal immigration argument. Meaning it doesn't matter that the election has happened, the country voted overwhelmingly that they want, as a matter of fact, surveyed like 80-20, they want to deal with the illegal immigration. California's folding its arms and saying, we're going to protect them, we're going to interfere with you, and we're going to blame Trump. Meanwhile, I uncovered this today, $34 to $40 million of California taxpayer funding is funding the posters, the masks, the banners, and the activists who are coming in from out of state, like the Antifa army that brings you the summer of riots. This is a political, organized, California-funded operation.
It sounds and looks very familiar to 2020, doesn't it? It's the same playbook all over again, and this is why I believe the American people are not buying it. And the fact that we've gone through this before, so we're paying a little bit more attention. Pastor Hank, what do you think? It's the summer of love all over again.
Well, here's what's so crazy. You know, they're blaming Trump and saying that, you know, he's doing this massive deportation. And we have to remember that in 2 terms underneath Obama, that, you know, the report was he deported 3 million. And there wasn't this kind of uproar and outrage from the same loony Democratic Party. One thing that did draw my attention is something that Lance had prophesied regarding Trump's first presidency is, and I think it's playing out, and this is why President Trump needs to get involved, is the Lord spoke through Lance that Trump would be the chaos candidate. And isn't it interesting? Look at all the chaos that's happening. And I think that President Trump has been anointed and appointed by God to bring order. And I do want to say this last thing. You know, Maxine, what's her name, Goofball or whatever she is out there, that nobody got killed. So it must have been, you know, a peaceful protest. Well, according to John 10, verse 10, how you identify an enemy. And that's what these people are. They come to steal, which they're doing, kill, and to destroy. And right now we have to bind the enemy and cast them out. And I'm glad that somebody is finally getting involved because Newsom is a coward.
Yeah, we're gonna show that Maxine Waters clip because it's funny. It's funny. All right, so Josh Phillips with us from Epic Times. In fact, Josh was in L.A. earlier. Watch this.
We could see the burning car from back there. So we're just around the corner from the federal building. Federal building's down that way. The police have the whole area blocked off. This vehicle's burning here. Police have a checkpoint up. They say you don't go any closer, you know, because there's a burning vehicle, honestly. Again, we're here with the LA riots. You have some guys running around, you know, helmets on, black masks. I can tell you my personal feeling right now, you have some rogue groups running around. I've seen some like Antifa-looking guys on scooters and stuff. What I've been told, you are going to have some people doing like dispersal things. They're going around areas, causing things like this. They're trying to distract police. A lot of people stopping. And so currently that's what we're seeing. Keep you updated through the night. We're going to be going around having some look at some areas. It's the gas tank. But the fire just must have hit the gas tank. It doesn't explode as fire gets bigger. So yeah, ongoing.
All right, Josh, you were there, L.A. Did it feel like it was before? You were there firsthand. Tell us what you saw.
Well, it was interesting because I saw some really weird things going on. Of course, you just saw one of the burning vehicles. I moved to another location not long after that, actually right where the overpass was by the courthouse, where there were protesters throwing bricks and everything off of the bridge. And it was hitting police cars. There were still police cars down there, windshields damaged. The entire freeway was closed down still. I mean, this was late night, and you had vehicles clearing it. I mean, it was terrible. While I was there, someone lit another vehicle on fire, and I saw something strange. There was a guy next to me, and he had a radio in his backpack, dressed like a normal protester. Yeah, they have these like painter masks they wear and goggles. He had a radio in his backpack, and he was talking to somebody right before the fire went off, right before the second fire went off. And I saw they were coordinating. There was a group of these protesters. These were rioters, a group of them, and they were telling each other, okay, this is the next place to go, that place. Right when that car got on fire, it was like the next location they were heading to. What I was told in terms of the way they operate, you had the main focus of the protests, which was around the federal building. And then you had groups going around starting fires and so on, because every time they started a fire, you need a fire truck, you need an ambulance, and you need police to protect them. And so when police were limited, which they were until now, they only had so many to spare. And that meant that the protesters could overwhelm the remaining police wherever they were.
Yeah, let me show you this, Josh, Lance. This is an unexpected voice of clarity. Senator John Fetterman, yes, he says, I unapologetically stand for free speech, peaceful demonstrations, and immigration, but this is not that. This is anarchy In true chaos, my party loses the moral high ground when we refuse to condemn setting cars on fire, destroying buildings, and assaulting law enforcement. Lance, this is, who is this guy, John Fetterman? I mean, he's actually making a lot of sense lately.
Oh, any moment now, Carville's going to come out with his hat on, his T-shirt, and start cussing and saying, if you think this is how you're going to win the midterms, you're stupid. You need to think blank, 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 blank. Because this works for California fundraising, by the way. This is how they're raising money with the money people in California. Oh, they're all going to be rebellious against Trump. But this is the kiss of death for the midterms. And I applaud it. I say they're going to do this on Trump's birthday. Keep doing it. Because it's a PR nightmare. The American people, including the Hispanic community, do not want illegals in their backyard. They don't want them taking their jobs. They don't want crime on the streets. They don't want them challenging the quality of education in the schools. It's a no-win situation for minorities. So this is the only people that like this are the progressive, frankly, mostly white, educated, upper-class, disconnected Marxist utopians who want to resist Trump's administration. The rest of the country isn't buying it. I think this is a losing strategy.
I think it's a losing strategy. Well, Josh, what else did you see there? Any cause for concern or any surprises while you were out?
Well, so I was there this afternoon during the day. It was a lot quieter this afternoon. You did still have some protesters out there. You had more journalists than protesters this afternoon. I understand since then it's gotten a bit busier. I was commenting. I was like, you know what? I bet you that most of the rioters probably sleep until about noon. And you ever see that movie like, I Am Legend? They probably, come out, when it gets dark out. It was like that. So they are out again right now. The biggest thing to watch for now is going to be copycat protests. Dallas, San Francisco, different areas of the country already seeing some of it. But this Saturday is going to be the big one. You have protests planned in all 50 states. It's the 50-51, not to be confused with 51-50, the 50-51 protests. 50 states, they have more than 24 planned in Los Angeles alone. And you have about 190 organizations, all these far left organizations involved with it.
Well, what's the goal here? I mean, seriously, is this the goal? Josh, I'll get your take on this first. What's the ultimate goal with all these protests? To just blame Trump for everything? Is that it? Because it's what it seems like it is.
You know what I think? I think they want a repeat of George Floyd because George Floyd and those protests, that was their rallying call. For Democrats, it's kind of the grassroots that unites their base. They need something else like that because what are their policies right now? Their policies are resist Trump, and that's mainly it. So they need something to unite their base, and I think they're trying to get a new George Floyd type movement going on.
I think you're absolutely right. That's very good insight. All right, since Pastor Hank, you brought this up, this could be the clip of the day with Maxine Waters. Watch her talk about how peaceful these things really are. Watch.
We are advocating peaceful protest. Did not create any violence. Nobody was shot. Nobody was killed. Get it in your head. And so when martial law is called, what are you going to say? I missed the point. Don't miss the point, you all. Don't think that somehow, because they called out the National Guard, there was violence. There was no violence. I was on the street. I know. And I went from downtown detention back out into the community, talking to people what happened in Paramount, what happened in Compton, what happened in Inglewood. So, first of all, get it straight. And don't just rely on what you're being told or the few incidents that you saw.
Yeah, Lance, come on, get it straight. There was no violence in that video at all.
Yeah, well, and it gets worse as the day goes by. But I mean, you asked a good question a moment ago. What's the goal here? I think in part the Democrats realize that they're like a lame duck right now till midterms. They've got to find something. And what they do is, you remember how they put in Ketanji Brown and rolled out Justice Breyer? It's like the left is vigilant about trying to improve their position on the playing field. And what they're doing is they're hoping there will be, catch this, they're hoping there will be a reaction from the right. I think they believe that if they can provoke enough, they can create a flashpoint incident that'll work for them. And in some cases, you know, the only strategy is restraint. What bothers me is that I never can figure this out, Gene. Are the police, where are the police in this? Because it took them 2 hours for the LAPD to show up to support the ICE officers who were under siege. 2 hours for the LAPD to show up. Now, when the commissioner came out, he looked like he was almost politically apologizing for the fact that he had to admit that while there were peaceful protesters during the day, a whole different element was showing up at night. Well, and those are the professional paid agitators. I don't understand why they don't arrest them, why they don't not only arrest them, but advertise a little bit of 60 Minutes on them. Who are they? How are they trained? They're paramilitary. They came out of the military. They have a criminal rap sheet. And they were already arrested in Atlanta, and they were arrested in Detroit, and they were arrested in Minneapolis. They move around. This story's got to get broken open because it's time we knew what was happening.
And we talked about this last night, Lance. The whole Craigslist post, I'm sure you saw it. I mean, offering up to, I think it's $12,500 a week to come. I mean, this isn't chump change. This is pretty good pay to go riot, cause trouble, throw rocks. And, you know, and in the middle of all of this, we have Mexico acting bananas. The president of Mexico saying, you guys should mobilize. We should mobilize. All my Mexican brothers and sisters, you should go mobilize. Here she is. Read the subtitles if you don't speak Spanish. Watch.
Las mexicanas y los mexicanos que viven en Estados Unidos son hombres y mujeres de bien, son hombres honestos, que se fueron a Estados Unidos a buscar una mejor vida para ellos y para aportar a sus familias. No son criminales, son hombres y mujeres de bien. La quema de patrullas parece más un acto de provocación que de resistencia. Debe quedar claro, condenamos la violencia, venga de donde venga. Llamamos a la comunidad mexicana a actuar de manera pacífica y no caer en provocaciones.
All right, so show this. This is the U.S. Homeland Security News. Call to arms. The Mexican president calls on all Mexicans in the U.S. to protest in the United States. You know, here's the interesting thing, Josh. In Mexico, it is against the law, if you are not a native of that country, to involve yourself in any protest of any sort in their country. But yet she's calling people to protest in America. Mexicans, foreign nationals, illegals, go protest. This is crazy.
Well, you know what I find most interesting about that is because what do you call it when a foreign government incites riots in a country? You call that an insurrection. And when Trump is talking about foreign invasion and foreign interference and, you know, again, insurrection and that legal narrative is what Trump is going to need to activate the military to act as police. And, you know, they're now saying that the National Guard, maybe the Marines, this is going to be the model for all major cities if they find people trying to block ICE from doing their job, if they see that people are trying to maybe go after the federal agents or interfere with them, it's going to be National Guard and Marines. And if you have a foreign leader making a statement like this, inciting riots, and that is, whether or not that's what she called for, that was the result, at least partially of what she said. It does give a lot of power to Trump. I think she gave him a gift with that, actually.
And I don't think Trump's responded to her yet. I have not seen that anywhere. Have you seen that, Josh?
I didn't see Trump respond to, which is actually very interesting.
It is.
On that point, she's talking about taxes on remittances. She's very unhappy they're going to put a 3.5 tax on remittances. Right. Interestingly, another point, that's in the big, beautiful bill. They're not talking about making it 5% because of her. And the Senate Republicans are rallying now because of these protests. The whole thing blew up in their faces.
Oh, my. It just keeps getting better. Listen, if you didn't see last night's show where we played parts of the interview on MSNBC with Gavin Newsom, it's really worth going back to the YouTube page to pull that back up, because it's just, Gavin Newsom's having a bad week. He's just having a bad week. Now, look at this. John Basham posts this. Tweet 6 here, guys. California wants to secede from the U.S. The current California Secretary of State, Shirley Weber, announced a new initiative for the state to secede and make the Cali an independent nation. It's been authorized to begin collecting signatures. The initiative is in its preliminary stage and represents a significant political movement within the state. It's not a joke. Pastor Hank, they're really doing this.
Well, they always talk about how California one day will, divide and fall out into the sea by an earthquake. Well, I don't really believe that, but I do believe that what they're trying to do is create enough shakings and rhetoric and narratives and buffoonery and lunacy and rioting that they do want to create this division. But I think that earlier Lance had mentioned something that I think is important. Where are the leaders of California? You cannot tell me, whether they be on the left, the right, or in the middle, that this really is how they feel California should be represented. I don't think for a moment that they believe that this is peaceful protest, unless you've gone crazy like Maxine Waters, where they just probably need to throw some water on and let her melt away like the Wizard of Oz. And that's, by the way, what your vote gets. But I think that there's enough strong leaders in California, and I think there's enough people who are saying, you know what, this is not right, and we're going to stand up. And I hope that we start not just seeing the National Guard or military strength or law enforcement. I want to see we the people. And I'm not talking about insurrection or rioting. I'm talking about standing up and saying this is not allowed. And if that means making phone calls, showing up at the courthouses, talking to Gavin Newsom, who the only strength he has is in his hair gel, I think that there needs to be some tough response. To bring this thing back to a sense of peace, and I want to say this last thing. Here's what the liberals and wherever the money flow is coming from, Gene, that's funding this, what they've underestimated. There's a reason there was a landslide in our latest election that we just had in all the three branches of our government. It's because there was enough is enough, this outrage that is the majority of the American people, which, by the way, is also reflective in California. And they've pushed this too far, and it's going to backfire. And I think what it's going to do is empower more and more people to say, this is not the kind of America we want, and we're going to vote for people who reflect our interests as we the people, so that our children can grow up in quiet and peaceful streets.
Amen. All right, Josh, let's go back to the election. There was an overwhelming, in response to what Pastor Hank just said, there was a huge red appearance during the election. I mean, it was not this massive blue state, except in the very center of the cities. There is a lot of conservatives in California, but they're going to have to stand up and take care of business.
Yeah, well, I'm from San Diego originally, and growing up, San Diego was very, very Republican. And it might go that way. Really, it was looking like in the last election, several states that have been solid blue for a very long time, they could flip. New Jersey could be a swing state next time around. And so, Democrats, they can't afford to lose voters. If they're going to win, they need to gain voters. And if you watch the polling, what's happening? Well, if you watch CNN, of all places, they just had a poll come out on the reaction to what's happening in LA. Donald Trump just had like a 30, 40 point shift with immigrants. Incredible. It's like you'd think they'd be against what's happening, but they support Trump overwhelmingly. Trump is gaining huge amounts of support through this. And so it raises the point. I don't know why they think these are winning things to get behind. Back to, Senator Fetterman raising that issue.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think, Lance? California's going to go red? Go ahead, tell me.
Look, Trump took 40% of it. Orange County, Fresno County, San Bernardino all shifted red. If you guys would just stay in California and not leave. The problem is, Gene, Everyone's leaving California because it's crazy, and they're coming over here to Texas or Florida. But we need you to stay in California. 50% of the church is under some kind of a left behind virus attack. They don't get involved with voting. So you got to pay attention to Jack Hibbs. Get out there, get some oxygen with the Christians that are doing stuff in California, because California has enough Christian voters to be able to flip the state to sanity. So I almost feel like we need to do vicarious repenting for all the goofy Christians in California who refuse to get registered to vote because they're waiting for the rapture.
All right, so June 4th, we talked about this earlier. Get this in before we go to the break. Mass protest plan for June 14th. Here's a clip, watch.
This might be one of the most important videos I've ever made. This map right here, this is a map on nokings.org. nokings.org. If you go there, you will see this along with everything else they have planned and orchestrated to start chaos and riots with protest on the 14th of this month, which is the parade, which is Donald Trump's birthday. They go on and tell you why they're doing this, why it's important to do this, because Donald Trump is using taxpayer dollars to celebrate the military with a parade on his birthday party. The irony of that. What about the taxpaying dollars to, never mind. They'll explain everything on why they have to start these groups and these little cells everywhere to have massive protest, and it's absolutely horrific when you read it. The days leading up to the 14th, they have calls, Zoom calls, nationwide calls. This one here is today, disappeared in America, mass call. Everyone has to get on. We got to spread this out. We got to spread this out and get this out to everybody. The cities they're everywhere that they're going to be doing this in. And if you think what's happening right now in California is bad, no wonder Trump is bringing in 7,000 troops, the Marines, the SEALs, and the Arsenal. Holy cow. How long do they have this planned? Nokings.org. Share with your friends. Get the word out.
Well, I don't know if I share it and get the word out. We need to know this is happening. But this goes back to what we just discussed earlier, Josh, Lance, Hank. The fact is they are looking for something to happen. They are, and I think you're right, Josh. I think they're really pushing some buttons here, hoping somebody's going to respond or do something stupid that they've got it on video and they can do a Rodney King or all of this all over again. This is what this is all about. So let me get your opinion here, Josh. What do we do to make sure this doesn't happen?
Well, I think actually the real response is don't call them names, don't get engaged in violence, don't be the reactionary force. I think right now Trump is actually handling it. I think what he's doing is probably putting a lot of it down. What they want more than anything, is one person to do so much as call somebody a racist name. For them, they can throw bricks at cars and light police on fire and everything else. Nothing, no violence, nothing to see here. You so much as call somebody a bad name, you will be on every headline of every news outlet on the left across the whole country. They need anything. And I think they're hedging their bets that if they just do enough of these and they get one person mad anywhere, that's their political campaign. And I think that's what they're going for, actually.
I think you're right. Lance,
Hey,
your
Gene,
thoughts on
Gene, real quick.
Okay,
go
Hank.
ahead.
No, go ahead, Hank.
Yeah, I want to read you something. This was sent to me. This was a prophecy that we prophesied April 13th of 2025, and I wasn't aware of it. I'll make it quick. God says, April 13th of this year, this is the time of my righteousness and justice. Therefore, in the earth, this is your season. Pay attention so you may understand to a specific day, a month upon your calendar, that you call Flag Day in this nation, United States. As you look at this time upon your calendar, you will see events leading up and leading to that day. Be not alarmed or moved. Pay attention to this day as you look to the Flag Day, for it will represent truth, justice, and liberty that I'm bringing. And this will begin to shift and carry you through until the time of a great celebration of your 250th year of your reign. of my mercy. I need you to pray leading up to this day and that truth will come and greater exposures will begin to come forth as I shine a new liberty upon your country, saith the Lord. So I think we got to look at it from God's perspective. They want us to look at it what the devil may do, but God's saying, I am involved in the God factor. The fact that he called out this day back, April, and told us to pay attention and pray, he gave us an indication of what he wants to do. And I think we need to get in the war room and we need to pray that particular prophetic utterance out.
Absolutely. I think you're right. That's good remembrance there. Okay, Lance, your final comment here before we go to the break.
Yeah, well, I just think it's so important for us to get sophisticated. I keep using the word now because we've been doing this for 4 years, Gene, and every year we learn a little bit more, and there's funding. This is where your Soros, your Tides, your Rockefeller, there's funding organizations, the government themselves. I just said, I broke a story today on how California's own government taxes is paying for the riot in California, because they allocated to departments that train students in immigration activism, and then they bring them out on the streets. So I just think, remember this, as you watch this thing happen, this isn't America having a protest. These are funded protesters having to earn their bread and butter. Since they've got paid by these donors, they got to do something. So what you're going to get is paid performance art. That's not a movement. Movements is what our side does. In their case, they do theater.
Wow, very good. All right, well, there we go. We'll go to the break. We come back. I'm going to give you an update about what happened with Mike Lindell last night. Don't go away. We'll be right back after this.
FlashPoint Live is coming to Evangel World Prayer Center in Louisville, Kentucky, July 3rd and 4th. Your host, Gene Bailey, is joined by Hank Kuhneman, Lance Wallnau, and more for 2 breakthrough-filled nights of bold truth and spiritual insight. Register for this free event at fbarmy.com/Kentucky, July 3rd and 4th, Louisville, Kentucky. This is your moment. It's time to accelerate to the next level of FlashPoint. The War Room is calling. Join the FlashPoint War Room, a powerful community of believers standing together in prayer, unity, and bold support. Get exclusive updates on what God is doing right now through this movement. Stand in faith, stand for truth, and stand with FlashPoint as we press into what God is doing in this season. Whether you're a pastor, intercessor, or a passionate viewer, this is your call to action. Go to fbarmy.com and join the War Room today.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Gene Bailey. You're watching FlashPoint.
It's official. FlashPoint is now 4 nights a week. You can catch us every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. More news, more encouragement, more opportunities to stand for truth. Don't miss a moment.
What you guys do, it's immeasurable.
Make sure you go online and share this with all of your friends, your family, even people you don't know.
FlashPoint, always to the right of center.
It's breathtaking. A tsunami of darkness threatens to wash away all we hold dear if we don't act now. In Killing America, turning the tide on the tsunami of darkness, Gene and Terry Bailey bring hope, help, and chart a course that leads to America's restoration and renewal. Don't wait. Get your copy at killingamericabook.com and counter the tsunami of darkness with a deluge of everlasting light.
And welcome back to the second half. Listen, I told you I would give you an update on Mike Lindell. I had a text from Mike late last night and again this morning. Great response. And his response was, thank you to the FlashPoint Army. We were able to make payroll this week. So thank you, guys. You really rallied. Huge number of sales that'll help him out. Now, we did talk a little bit more about Lindell Recovery Network. So I want to put that on the screen because there's a way. All of this is connected. If he doesn't have the money for My Pillow, he doesn't have the money for the Lindell Recovery Network. So this is another way to help get addicts off the street. If you're wanting to do something, you don't want to buy a pillow, go to Lindell Recovery Network, and let's continue to help Mike out as he continues to fight in the trial of his life. It's a trial that we all should be concerned about. So do that, Lindell Recovery Network, and we'll continue to bring you updates from Mike as they come in. All right, so Lance, I was thinking during the break, like I know we have, the Killing America book, but I actually, the other day, was looking back through your book on Chaos Code, and it's very interesting to go back and look at some of these things that were written, and you would think that maybe it would be out of date because, well, Trump's elected now and things that seem to have changed. But it has never been more current than it is right now.
No, it is. I mean, because what we have, Gene, since we began in 2016, hard to believe we started way back then. But what we've been doing is we've been tracking with a global spiritual warfare. So when Hank brings in a prophetic word, I mean, our basic story arc has never changed, and that is that. And I really believe this now, that Trump is in office, President Trump is in office as a restraining force to hold back anarchy. You see is in California, it's all over the country, really. But Trump is holding it back. But remember, it's for the sake of the gospel going to the nations. And Europe is right now experiencing a shift to the right. It's an anti-immigration strike. Trump was prophetic, and we prayed him in that way. And all the countries in Europe are now saying, we need to deal with this immigration thing because it's not working. We thought it was compassion. We thought it would normalize. It's gotten worse. So I'm looking at this as a period of time in which God is moving the chess pieces because this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all the world. And I'm waiting, Gene, for this movement that is in the United States to get strong enough, not just to survive, but to start going more fully to other nations. And I think that's coming next.
I believe that's true. And that's why we are going global this year. Listen, there's so much. We've got some trips planned, more information on that as it comes along. But listen, so Lance, can they still get that book at your website
They
or on
can.
Amazon?
Yeah, they can. It's God's Chaos Code. I think it's on Amazon. And it's still, it's strange to me because I go back and look at it and flip it open. I go, man, I talked about the American debt situation, the Game of Thrones in Europe, what's happening with China emerging. Right. And it's like, no, this is an accurate book. This captures a decade of prophetic activity.
It was. And, Pastor Hank, there was a book that you wrote, and since I'm talking about books, I want to go back to that I've promoted before, it's been a while, that I want people in this time, in this season where people are wondering, what does it mean to follow the prophetic, and how do we know one's right and one's wrong, and who's crazy and who's not crazy? The Throne Room Prophecy, your book, is something I still believe every believer should get because it is really almost a textbook about the prophecy and the prophetic words. You still have that available as well, don't you, Pastor Hank?
Yes, and thank you for that. I wrote that book, Throne Room Prophecy, and thank you, Pastor Gene, for mentioning it, because it was before, obviously, all the things that happened in 2020 when there was an attack on the prophetic. And really, in some regards, there needed to be some correction brought to some of the prophetic. But then I think there was some of the prophetic vessels and prophecies that were kind of lumped into being false and wrong, and everything began to be really disoriented, confusing for a lot of people. And so I wrote that book ahead of time, and it kind of got lost in the shuffle. But I think about Chuck Pierce and different ones, Brother Copeland that wrote, endorsements. They said it was one of the best books they ever read on the prophetic. And one of the things that we forget about is there is the legitimate voice of God in the earth. And what it really is rather than seek a word, is find those who are after the heart of God. That is the most sacred thing, is to steward over the heart of God. And when you capture his heart, you get his mind, his will, his feelings, his perspective, and his agenda. And in that book, I talk about how that's the most important thing. And that's what this vessel tries to do, is just be a mouthpiece for the heart of God. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we put up openingtheheavens.org because that's a conference coming up. FlashPoint will be there September the 11th, 9/11, right there at the Mid-America Center outside of Omaha, Nebraska, in Iowa. Listen, so I want to see you guys there. If you want more information, go to openingtheheavens.org and you can find out more. Of course, you can go to our website, fparmy.com. And get the information about the event and all of the details there. So, Pastor Hank, you had another word to say there?
No, I was just saying I'm so glad, at the event in, is it not Beaufort, Bedford, Texas. I keep messing it up. I mentioned, I was kind of vulnerable, said, the numbers were not where they needed to be. But you know what? The FlashPoint Army and the people of God, again, we had such a surge over the weekend of numbers. We are on track for a great showing of people to come and celebrate what God is doing, but also to pray and strategize for what God wants us to do next. I mean, we have greater numbers than the liberal magazines and podcasts and Facebook pages and even CNN. So we're seeing a real climb, and so I'm really glad that the people have responded to show their support.
Amen. All right, let's pick back up here. Josh, look at this post from CBS News. Third Chinese national accused of smuggling biological materials into Michigan. Now, this happened last week, and we didn't get to spend a lot of time on it. This is pretty huge stuff that's happening. We had an ag biological material trying to be, China is not backing down on wanting to hurt America. Or am I really seeing that correctly?
Absolutely. The Chinese Communist Party has, from the very beginning, going back to Mao Zedong, had an open policy called "We Live, You Die." And they believe they cannot coexist with the United States on the same earth. They believe the destiny of the CCP, they have to either destroy the United States or the United States will destroy the Chinese Communist Party. They don't believe it can be one. They don't believe that, both can stay. In their open warfare documents, unrestricted warfare, they talk about environmental warfare. So environmental warfare is part of their agenda. Those biological materials, those were agriculture bioweapons or, molds that could work as bioweapons. They could destroy our farming industry. And on that point, shocking, actually, there's very little regulation in the United States on private virus laboratories. In fact, I'm in California right now covering some stuff. Not too far from me was a few years back, they found that Chinese virus lab. They never prosecuted anything with that other than counterfeiting, because there's no regulations on that. You can buy humanized mice, you can buy live viruses, and there's almost no regulation.
Yeah, this is crazy. I mean, look at this. This is, of course, Epic Times. Wuhan researcher charged with smuggling biological materials. U.S. prosecutors charged another Chinese national for biological materials to the U.S. and lying about the scheme. Here's the part. A Han Xingwan, I guess, a PhD candidate from Wuhan in central China. Wuhan seems to come up often still. Josh, what is this? She was the third Chinese national charged in a week for smuggling materials for biological research. The previous two accused of smuggling a crop-killing fungus include a postdoctoral fellow at the University of Michigan's molecular plant microbe interaction. She was, said Han was a Chinese Communist Party member, shown loyalty to the party. What is the connection here with the University of Michigan? I mean, this is, somebody needs to be looking into this. Why are American universities having this connection? Are they buying their way in?
This is a huge, huge problem in the United States. We have a very big problem with Chinese researchers, Chinese students, and Chinese faculty at American universities who have ties to the Chinese Communist Party. I actually just did a big investigative report on this. In the United States, people have heard of the Confucius Institutes. Just as big, I'd argue even more of a threat, is what's called the Chinese Student and Scholar Associations. These are organizations at most American universities. They're openly funded by the Chinese Communist Party. They're openly operated by the Chinese consulates. And they include students, they include faculty, they include professors. And the big scary thing with this, the CCP uses them to, one, for theft, they steal research. But the bigger one, they use it to place spies, Chinese operatives, in different key industries. So you could have them grow a Chinese spy to work in the FBI. You could have them grow a Chinese spy to run for political office, to go into a targeted business, to go into the IRS or any other organization, and then to use their position to, for example, trigger an investigation into one of their political enemies or try to take somebody down. Like, they're actively doing this. They've been doing it for years.
Yeah, it's crazy. And Lance, we must understand China's still, they may have faded from the top of the list when it comes to headlines, but if we're not careful, we're going to miss something here. I mean, this is massive. They're still coming after us.
They're not faded from the top of the list of headlines. They just took over South Korea through a surrogate president that stole the election.
It's true.
And then China, Beijing was the first call they made to South Korea and told them, slow down in your negotiating with the United States. Let America twist for a while before you settle your economic tariff relationship. Start your economics off with Beijing. China is a massive threat. We've got 300,000 Chinese students all over the United States. Probably, 6% of them could be active spies for the CCP. What you've got there with those three, I would kick out every Chinese student right out of the Institute, Michigan school right there, especially out of the science labs.
Right.
There's 3 in a row that came in with bioweapons. I mean, how dumb do you have to be? This is like something out of a Monty Python script. Then the fourth person from Wuhan comes, with a PhD, with a bag of groceries they brought from China and plastic bags with Petri dishes. So, I mean, I was studying the other two when my daughter sent me a third. I thought it was Babylon B. I said, honey, it's a joke. She goes, I don't think so. And I looked it up, and sure enough, the third one just came in.
It's crazy. So we're gonna keep following that. You keep following it. Do your own research. And listen, Epic Times, again, we haven't talked a whole lot about you guys recently, Josh, but thank you for staying true to the story and staying true to it, because a lot of other news outlets are ignoring it, are doing a completely different spin. And speaking of that was my segue to this story, which for some reason I take great joy in playing this clip from April 29th this year, ABC, Terry Moran and President Trump. Watch.
Do you think the reputation of the United States has gone down under your presidency?
No, I think it's gone way up, and I think we're a respected country again. We were laughed at all over the world. We had a president that couldn't walk up a flight of stairs, couldn't walk down a flight of stairs, couldn't walk across a stage without falling. We had a president that was grossly incompetent. You knew it, I knew it, and everybody knew it, but you guys didn't want to write it because you're fake news.
All right. Thank you.
And by the way, ABC is one of the worst. I have to be honest with you.
Thank you.
All right, but that's not the end of the story. I mean, of course, President Trump owned him right there. J.D. Vance, all right, so here's what happened. If you don't know what happened, here's what happened. ABC journalist Terry Moran posted this absolutely vile smear of Stephen Miller, dripping with hatred. Remember, every time you watch ABC's coverage, remember that every time you watch ABC's coverage of Trump administrations. And he talks about how he knows Stephen Miller, and this was disgraceful. But here's what, go to the next one. This is what Stephen Miller, or Terry Moran said. The thing about Stephen Miller is not that he's the brains behind Trumpism. He's one of the people who conceptualizes the impulses of the Trumpist movement and translate them into policy. But that's not what's interesting about Miller. It's not brains, it's bile. He's a man who richly endowed with the capacity for hatred. He's a world-class hater. You can see this by just looking at him. Now, isn't that interesting, making such a leap in judgment? Because you can see hatred is his spiritual nourishment. He eats his hate. Trump is a world-class hater, but his hatred only means to an end. And that end is his own glorification. It's his spiritual nourishment. Wow. Bile and vile, I mean, it is horrible. So guess what happened? Breaking news, conservative brief post, ABC is reportedly suspended. Reporter Terry Moran, after posting bizarre, vitriol-filled social media posts against President Trump and White House Deputy Chief of Stephen Miller. Moran was most famous for a bombastic interview with Trump back in April, which you just saw. Just one highlight of that. All right, so Josh, remember when journalism used to be about not being political and trying to report the story? I mean, the fact that he would put this, I thought maybe somebody hacked his X account and that he did that. But no, that was really him. He really said all of that.
Well, and case in point, if you look at the ratings of a lot of media, they're collapsing. And I think what's happening is people are getting so fake of being lied to. They're getting so fake of being told that something happened and it never happened. They're getting so tired of journalists inserting just, political grandstanding and not telling you what's really going on and not telling you the facts and not like investigating things. They're sick of it. And actually to a key point, this is also something we've been seeing. If you were to ask me, one of the big shifts we saw in this country, going back again to 2016, we saw a huge shift take place in the media. Independent media coming up, individual content creators, social media, and we saw a collapse in the controlled, centralized, and dishonest press corps. They tried stopping that with censorship. They tried stopping it with everything else, but it failed. And I think we are watching now that people are waking up. They're seeing through the lies. You can't lie to them like you used to. And a lot of people who are professional liars, they're failing. I really do think that media, true media, is coming back, and I think journalism is making a good comeback with folks like yourself as well, Gene. So it's wonderful to see, I'd say.
You too. All right, Lance, I know you got a comment here. Come on, you got me something.
Well, I want to tell you something, Gene.
Come on, tell me.
Simone Biles there. I mean, you're missing that story there, where we're stepping all over this lead story. Olympic gymnast Simone Biles publicly apologized to Riley Gaines on Tuesday after comparing the former NCAA swimmer turned conservative commentator to a man in an online attack. So what this means is legacy media, which is your CNN, your MSNBC, your ABC, your New York Times, your Washington Post, they're there. But we have a competing system. And ours, while it doesn't have the legacy posture, all of our social media outlets collectively create a kind of a piranhaville that goes up on these sharks and traumatizes them, because when they say what they say, there's enough net effect of the volume of the populist movement pushing back on them that they hear it and they feel it. That journalist that came against Trump and Stephen Miller got terminated. Simone Biles had to publicly recant, because the online feedback from the Americans is forcing a balancing of power in the media reign.
It sure is. In fact, we're going to talk more about that on Thursday's show, so make sure you tune in. Let me end tonight with this post from Floyd Brown. As you know, we're following this story very closely with our friend Floyd from the Western Journal, who was wrongly terminated from his position at the Kennedy Center. He writes, "This morning on my study time, Holy Spirit took me to Isaiah 59, assured me justice is coming. The Kennedy Center hired me, and in 30 days, fired me. My boss, Lisa Dale, quoted the leadership of the Kennedy Center, Rick Grinnell, as saying, someone with his traditional marriage views can't work in the arts. If I have to choose the views of Jesus over the views of this world, I choose Jesus every time." Look at that scripture right there. Justice is turned back. Righteousness stands far away, for truth has stumbled in the public squares, and uprightness cannot enter. Truth is lacking, and he who departs from evil makes himself a prey. We're going to see this thing turn around. I believe we must not let this trial with Floyd, it's not about, to me, it's not just somebody being wrongfully terminated. Sure, he was wrongfully terminated, but it is so much deeper in all that. How we do exactly what Lance said. We cannot take our foot off the gas. This uproar needs to continue on social media. We need to push back. We need to let the Kennedy Center know. You need to quote at Richard Grinnell on all your posts on X and everything else to let people know this is not acceptable. We have reached out to the White House for comment. They have not responded yet. I'm looking forward to them saying something. But Pastor Hank, this is massive. We need justice, and we need to see it soon.
Well, we are in the season of God's righteousness and his justice. That's what he's been saying. He's inserted himself in our country and in the earth on this global reset. Here's the thing. I also think it's Isaiah 59, where it says that when the enemy comes in like a flood, God will counter it and raise up a standard. And I think Floyd Brown taking a stand right now is that standard that is going to begin to knock the enemy out and help to bring a reset in some of this nonsense that are taking place, like with him getting fired. And then I just think one of the things that we need to do is there's a lot of prayer going up for President Trump. But I think we as prayer warriors need to somehow increase the prayer in a lot of these other areas. So it's not just one focus on one person, but some of these other battles, I think, are indications of what needs some strategic prayer so that we can see greater victory.
Amen. Amen. All right. In our last 2.5 minutes here, I want to read some of this from the mail. Dear Gene and Terry Bailey, I got her name right. My name is Mathan. I'm 15. I've been fighting muscular dystrophy, but I believe I'm healed. I've watched FlashPoint since the beginning. Last year, my family and I came to FlashPoint Live at Faith Life Church, and we met you, and you prayed for me. I remember you, Mathan. I'm giving $100. Thank you for that. Eventually, I'll give monthly. Thank you for what you're doing. I'm happy to support FlashPoint during this transition. It's encouraging what God's doing in America. Keep doing what you're doing. We're going to do that. And here's what's so encouraging to me is that when I see people that are this younger generation, I did not know, gentlemen, how many of a younger crowd actually watches FlashPoint. Rick sent a posting we played the other night of folks, the younger generation watches FlashPoint. Maybe your parents made you watch, but you found the truth. Thank you for that. See, I've got another one here. Thank you, Gene, and all the team. We wear our FlashPoint Army wear and our uncanceled shirts everywhere. And when we can, to get more hats, we will. Listen, let me talk about merch, because a lot of people, we're redoing our whole merch line. It's coming up because I want to make sure Lance has something to talk about, because he always talks about how the fact we have a lot of merchandise. But we're redoing our whole line, and you're going to be able to see it since we went out independent. And I want to say this. Thank you for being a part of FlashPoint every month. You guys are wonderful. What you did, you know what, for Mike Lindell, he said last night, there is nobody like the FlashPoint Army. You guys, you're just really something special. And you're right, you are. So thank you for all you're doing to help. And I want to say thank you to my panel tonight. I'm not going to give Lance a chance to comment, but thank you, Lance Wallnau, Pastor Hank, and of course, Josh Phillip. Come back anytime, Josh. Let us know what's going on with the Epic Times and what you're doing, and stay out of harm's way and all that you do. And listen, thank you for watching, every one of you. Thank you for being here. Make sure you tune in Thursday. We got a lot of great show. We've got some good guests coming. I believe, is Dr. Gold on Thursday? Dr. Gold will be with us. Simone Gold will be there. So much more. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff happening. Keep watching us. Stay tuned with our social media. You don't want to miss a minute of it. And if you get bored, go over to Lance and watch a rant. He'll do something. And if you're really bored, go over to watch Hank, and you'll see something about Whataburger somewhere. And go check out ovtv.net and get real with Hank if you're really desperate for entertainment. We'll see you next time. See you Thursday.